BRONXNET. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 85 of the New York City Charter, a meeting of the Bronx Borough Service Cabinet will take place on Wednesday, June 2nd, 2010 at 9:15 a.m. at 198 East 161st Street, 10th floor conference room. The agenda is to, one, get an update of the services and new initiatives from Bronx Community Solutions, and two, to get an overview of services from the Animal Care and Control. Also, we are going to hear a presentation on preparing for the summer from Con Edison. So those are the items on the agenda this morning. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting. I want to welcome Francisco back from a long illness, but he seems to be in good health, and that's good. And without any further ado, let us go to the first item on the agenda, the update of services and new initiatives. The presentation will be by Maddie Restro and Maria Almonte Weston from Bronx Community Solutions.
Hi, actually it's Mandy Restivo and TK Singleton, who's our Community Initiatives Coordinator. Maria's not going to be here today. Okay, so Bronx Community Solutions is a public-private partnership, and we are a project of the Center for Court Innovation and the Fund for the City of New York. And we work in the Bronx Criminal Courthouse to provide increased sentencing options for judges for misdemeanor offenses such as graffiti. We work with DWI cases, prostitution, so all different misdemeanor offenses in the Bronx. We do not work with any cases that are Operation Spotlight, which is if a person has had 3 misdemeanor offenses in a year, and we do not work with domestic violence cases because there is a separate court for that. Bronx Community Solutions has about 12,000 defendants or clients per year that come through our organization with alternative sentencing that includes community service or social service. Community service, we work with the local community boards to identify areas within the Bronx that either need graffiti removal or trash removal or cleaning. And TK is going to talk to you more about those initiatives. And our social service packages include individual counseling sessions with a social worker or a mental health provider, as well as we have a menu of 11 different social service classes. The ultimate goal is to use this person's arrest as a place where we can intervene and get that person connected to services that will help them improve their lives, such as job training, GED programs. So that's really our perspective, is that to combine punishment in the form of community service with retribution, which would give the person a chance to improve their life, in addition to utilizing our community service to help the community. So it really is a partnership between the courts, communities, and as well as the clients that we work with. We have a mental health initiative. So of the 12,000 clients that we see per year, all of them are screened for mental health. And what we do is if someone flags for mental health, we will get them set up with an individual counseling session and try to connect them to different resources in the Bronx so that they can address their underlying mental health issues. What we found is that 22% of our clients do flag for mental health, which is, in terms of the larger population, a greater percentage than what's getting flagged in the larger population. So it shows that there's a very large unmet need in this population for addressing mental health issues. We also have a new initiative where we're working with prostituted women, and we're working with local domestic violence and sexual assault agencies to help these women be identified as victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse, because there is very high rates in this population of domestic violence and sexual abuse, and many of these women are prostituted by partners or family members. So we're trying to look at this issue holistically to provide options for alternatives to prostitution and to help these women with any sort of domestic violence, sexual violence, or systematic violence that is occurring in their lives. And that's a brand new initiative. We've just hired 2 new people to work on that initiative, and we're working with sanctuaries for families to provide services for these women. We also work with all of the DWI cases in the Bronx, and we assist clients with getting screening to see if they have an underlying drug addiction or alcohol addiction to get them to services. We also have a new program called the Youth Intervention Program, where we have created a social service package for youth that works on better decision making and having them take responsibility for their actions, in addition to community service such as graffiti removal, where they can really feel the impact of the work that they're doing. And again, the goal is to intervene with a youth very young so that they don't continue to re-enter the criminal justice system. And that is for youth between the ages of 16 to 21. We also have a new initiative looking at re-entry in the Bronx. And if anyone is interested in being a part of that, I'll pass out my cards. We just started a working group about 2 weeks ago. We're meeting again June 8th at 6:30 p.m. across the street in the courthouse. And that reentry group is going to be looking at health issues in the reentry population, but we're going to be looking at health issues very broadly. So if you think about health, one of the things that makes someone the most healthy is having an apartment and having a job. So we are going to be looking very holistically at the issue of reentry, also looking at primary care and preventative care for this population. And we're still working on defining our goals and objectives, so it would be a great time for any of you to get involved with that initiative, because you can really help shape it to what you see the community needs. And that is all that I have sort of as a brief overview. We do have a 70% compliance rate. So of people who are sentenced to alternative sentencing, community service or social service, 70% are complying with that mandate. And pre-Bronx Community Solutions, for alternative sentencing, there was a 50% compliance rate. So we are, in addition to providing alternative sentencing, we really are monitoring and ensuring that the clients do carry out the sentences that the court has imposed. So does anyone have any questions sort of on big picture?
Yes, I do. How long have you been in existence?
We've been here for 5 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. And when you speak about the health issues, I'm expecting that you're also including mental health?
Yes, also mental health.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, Fernando.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fernando Torado. I just wanted to say that last year we were introduced to Bronx Community Solutions, and we've actually partnered with them to target certain areas in our community to address graffiti, to address prostitution. And we have had a lot of positive response with the work that BCS does with the local precinct, meeting with the community board and with the community residents. I think that this partnership is something that we need to continue to foster, because it really has made a difference. So.
Thank you so much for that. And that's an excellent segue to my colleague, TK Singleton, who is going to be talking about our community initiatives and the way we do work with the different community boards.
Hey, good morning. Most of you I pretty much know. Like the Deputy Project Director said, we have been in existence for 5 years, and many of the community boards we've had the privilege to work with. And in particular, my goal in this presentation is going to be very brief. If many of you know me, you know it's not very much brief, but I'm going to try. Is really looking at how the courts can shape and help the community as a whole. It's 50,000 misdemeanor arrests happen in the Bronx each year. And 50,000 people or Bronx residents are affected with that. And what better way to assist a person that may have issues that help them commit crimes to assist in rebuilding the communities in which they live. And that's very, very important, is to make sure that the courts are not just this system that is separate from the community, but it all works together. And that's what I do, and that's what Bronx Community Solutions tries to do in the communities front. Fernando spoke about that we have a collaboration with Community Board 7, and where we've really tried to assist them in dealing with certain quality of life issues and crimes, such as prostitution, such as graffiti. And we are really working with them to assist them on trying to find preventative measures and also assist them with recidivism with prostitution. I've worked in Community Board 2 alongside Mr. John Roberts on many different issues and assisting them with their bid cleanup before they actually had hired someone to do the cleanup. And I can go around and speak about many different community boards where I've had the privilege to assist and work with them. And really, we try to do a number of different community service projects. One is a horticulture. And that one we work with Community Board 2 with Sustainable South Bronx in greening the Bronx and working on the greenways and many of the waterfronts that are happening. We also work with graffiti cleanup, much to everyone's resolve. That's probably the majority of the types of cleanups that we do in the Bronx. And then we work with the Step Street Initiative and working with the Bronx Borough President's Office on rehabilitating some of the Step Streets. So we have a number of different projects, and we are always looking for new innovative ways to help the Bronx become a better Bronx, a one Bronx, if you want to say. So if you have any questions, you can definitely bring them to me or my deputy director. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any questions or statement? Marisol.
Hi, TK. I just wanted you to bring up the basketball program that you have as a means of reentry and working closely with the community. I thought that was some initiative that works very well in connecting the youth to the community at large.
Yes, we have a basketball league that's on its we just completed its 4th season. And really, the league is for some of our young people that come through the courts. Unfortunately, 16 to 24-year-olds make up a large percentage of the arrests that happen, and they come through our doors. So we decided to collaborate with NYPD and also some of our criminal justice partners, such as probation, to find a way to bridge the gap between courts and community, in particular with young people. I think that sometimes young people see, officers, and they just see blue. They don't see a person. So this gives them an opportunity to be in an informal environment and work with them and play with them and find ways to see them above and beyond just blue, but actually see them as people and understand what they're trying to do. And it also gives the young people an opportunity really to work with the courts a little longer than their mandated sentence and help them get certain things that they need and reconnect them to certain services such as GED or college or jobs. And it's a really good program. I've been with it since its existence, working with a number of case managers that have assisted in the program, and it's really fun. Officers love it. They always, and this is all voluntary, and they're like, yes, I'm there. Just tell me my schedule, and I'm ready to play. And it's a really good opportunity for everyone, and it's a learning curve for everyone, and it's a great program. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, we want to thank you all for this excellent presentation and wish you the very best in your success with it. We need to cut down the recidivism back into the prison system, and it looks like you're on the right trail. Thank you again. The next presentation will be an overview of services by Julie Bank, the Executive Director of Animal Care and Control. Good morning, Julie.
Hi there. How are you today?
Fine, and you?
I'm
That's true.
Yeah. I have with me Dr. Stephanie Janesco, and she is our Director of Operations, and she's going to actually be my PowerPoint guru today. But I actually have a presentation that if I can pass around. Great. While she takes care of trying to get that started, to introduce myself, I am Julie Bank, and I'm the new Executive Director of New York City Animal Care and Control. I've been on the job now for 2 months, and it's definitely been an exciting 2 months to get to know the New York community as it relates to animal issues and to get to know the organization that I'm working for and working with. So we are a very robust, large organization, and we play an important role in the community. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today, is a little bit about who we are, some of the things that we're working on, how we function, and then to give you the opportunity to maybe help me understand how we can do a better job in the Bronx. Because that's one of the areas that we feel that we're really not being as successful thank you, Stephanie, as we'd like to do. So I have my card here if anybody down wants to take, and Dr. Janesco's card as well. So who is AC&C? And we call ourselves AC&C for short, but our full name is Animal Care and Control of New York City. And the care and the control part of us are important to recognize that we kind of have two roles. We are a full-service animal organization here in New York City, and as a matter of fact, we are the largest animal organization, not only in New York City, but in the Northeast. And I would venture to say that we're almost the largest in the country in the volume of animals that we take in every year. We are taking in 43,000 dogs, cats, and other animals that come through our door. And later on, I'll share a little bit more about what the others are. But 43,000 animals is a lot of animals. And it's too many animals, really, for a city that that really is more progressive in their animal welfare stuff. So I'm going to talk in a minute about some statistics. But every one of these animals come through one of our 5 facilities, are looked at by a veterinarian, are given TLC, are given vaccines, are cared for with food and water and in our shelter system. And the ultimate goal is to get them out in a loving home, or to get them back into the home that they originally came from and got lost from. We are the only organization in New York City that is responsible by law to take in every animal that comes in our door. And that makes us a little different than some of the other organizations who are just as important, because we all work together as a team to try to look at the issue in the community. But we take them in, no matter who they are, no matter what size they are, no matter what their temperament is, no matter what their medical condition is. We are the first line of defense for many of these homeless animals in the community. So they come right through our doors. At any given time, you could see that we take in about 120 animals each day coming through the door. And at this time of the year, which is our breeding season, our puppy and kitten season, that can double. So it's a little scary right now how many animals can come through our door. Now, there is some good news, though. And the good news is that our adoptions has really skyrocketed. So if you look at our statistics here, you can see that we've really done a fantastic job. And in the last year of 2009, over 24,000 animals of those 43,000 were adopted into new homes. Add to that the amount of animals that got reunited with their owners. We're doing a really good job. But there's still a lot of animals that are not leaving the centers alive. Most of these animals are coming into us with illnesses or behavior issues, so we can't place them back in the community. But we still have a long way to go in an effort of trying to become what you probably hear in the news is a no-kill community. The goal is to not have to euthanize any animals. And my personal goal is to not have any animals come in our door in the first place, so that we even have to be in the mess that we are, and that we have to deal with animal control perspectives. And that's where some of your help can come in helping us find opportunities in the Bronx to do more education and outreach to the community on responsible pet ownership. Not adoptions, I'm talking responsible pet ownership, and educating the community on how to be responsible with their animals and to follow the law with their animals. As you could see with our numbers here, our intake, although we've done a great job with adoptions and lowering euthanasia has definitely happened, we're kind of steady when it comes to the amount of intake that has come in our door. So although it was 43,000, 40,000, a couple of thousand here or there, it really shows that intake is still happening on a regular basis, and we need to really address that intake issue. I would be remiss if I didn't show you some of the faces of the animals that come in our door. And yes, we get in chickens, and yes, we get in cows, and yes, we get in snakes. Last week, we got a call about a white an albino peacock that somehow they thought escaped from the Bronx Zoo, but it didn't escape from the Bronx Zoo. It ended up in our care. So at any given time, we could be addressing any type of homeless animal or animal that's a danger to the community. Now, if you look at some of these faces, every one of these animals has a story. And the story usually involves a human. What we do, it's not really just about the animal. It's as much about the human and the relationship between that animal that makes what we do work. And I actually like to call ourselves a social service agency because we really are about families, and we're about everything that goes into what a family is about. On the happy side, we make families. We make happy families. We do adoptions. Animals are there for us when we come home at the end of the day. Animals are they do service for us in the police department. They do animal assisted therapy with us, and we help facilitate that. On the other side of the coin, we're dealing with things like overpopulation, homelessness, animal abuse, violence in the family that then trickles down to the animal. So all the same issues that the human social service agencies are dealing with, we are dealing with as well. We just have a different face to who our charge is, and those are the faces to who they are. So we really look at the work that we do on a much bigger level than just the pound or the place that the animals go to. We really are dealing with a lot of the same families and the same family issues that every other social service agency out there is dealing with. So it kind of just broadens the scope a little bit of the type of work that we do and the individuals we deal with. It's a multicultural group that comes to us. It's a multi-generational group that comes to us. And at any given time, our facilities are packed with people and, of course, with animals. The good news is every one of these animals have been placed into a new home. The bad news is that right now I have over 500 animals sitting waiting for somebody to come and say, I could just open my hearts and home to one more. So that's what makes us strive and makes us continue to do the work we do. So to look quickly about the things that we do, we operate 3 full-service shelters, and in the next slide, I will give you the addresses so that you have them. And we have 2 pet receiving centers, places that if somebody found a stray animal, they can bring it to our facility. One of those pet receiving centers is here in the Bronx. And I should let you know that the Bronx is the #1 place that we get animals from. We get more animals from the Bronx than any other borough in the 5 boroughs. And it's approximately 15,000 animals come specifically from the Bronx out of that 43,000 animals. We do pet adoptions at the animal shelters, as you see. We do off-site pet adoption events and educational outreach. Our field service officers, they are actually in the community every day, picking up injured animals, stray animals, educating the community, and keeping your streets safe. I know a lot of people joke that these guys are the dog catchers, and you can call them the dog catchers, but I like to call them professional animal control officers who are keeping your streets safe. Because without them, the police couldn't go into the homes that have the dog there, because many times our guys are in first. They wouldn't be able to deal with certain issues like evictions and drug busts or any of the other issues when animals are around without our support. So we are not only working hand in hand with the law enforcement agencies, but we are out there in the community dealing with aggressive animals and also assisting people with the pets that they have. I'll go into the New Hope program in a minute, but these are our locations. If you've never been to our Bronx Receiving Center, I encourage you to come there. Yes, it needs to be expanded. Yes, it needs to be bigger. I actually forgot to mention something that I think is really important, that we are a nonprofit organization. We are not a city organization. We're a nonprofit organization, but we do have the contract with the City of New York to perform the animal control services. So I just want to make sure that you understand the distinction about our agency. Shelter operations works really hard to make sure everybody's healthy, everybody's vaccinated, and everybody's walked and socialized, and everybody gets out into a new home. Specifically in our Bronx operations, we take in unwanted, stray, abandoned, neglected, and abused pets, and as I said, about 15,000 of them come from the Bronx. We provide rescue services, and we do a lot of partnering with the other animal organizations in the community, specifically to bring spay-neuter services and low-cost medical services to the community. We partner a lot with the ASPCA, who has a mobile spay-neuter vehicle, and we facilitate some of that arrangement with them, and we also allow them to park in front of our receiving center so that they can help the community with low-cost spay-neuter services. We talked about adoptions. We do a lot of off-site events. One of the things that we hear from the areas where we have our receiving centers in the Bronx and the Queens is that they don't want to travel far to come and adopt pets. So we are looking for any opportunity that we can to get the animals out of our full-service facilities and into the communities. So if there is an event or an opportunity that you see where we can bring adoptable pets to meet the adoption needs of the community, please let us know. Many of the things that the field service officers are doing are things that people don't realize that we're doing every day. But when there is an animal, we are the ones that are called. And we deal a lot with wildlife, specifically wildlife that's endangering or causing a threat to the community and is injured or ill. The New Hope program is really an amazing program. It's our partnership with over 150 rescue adoption organizations out there. There are a lot of private individuals who have their own rescue groups or their own programs, and we partner with those organizations to get animals out of our facility alive and into the community through these groups. We wouldn't be who we were without the help of the amazing volunteer corps that we have at our facilities. So if there's anybody looking for volunteer opportunities and wants to work with animals, we're the place to come to. So they can give us a call. The only thing is you have to be over 18. I know. But right now you have to be over 18 to participate in our volunteer corps. We do hope that down the road we'll be able to open up a youth volunteer opportunity, but that's down the road. So to end, I want to talk a little bit about how you can help. Funds, funds, funds are really my mantra right now. And as a new executive director, I need to find as much opportunity out there to connect with the community and connect with individuals who have a heart for animals and have a heart for the relationship between animals and people in the work that we do. And like everybody else, our budget has been cut dramatically. We went from a budget of $14 million, and this year we are looking at a budget of $7.2 million. So to continue the work that we do is going to be extremely difficult with a budget of $7.2 million. That means our phones aren't going to be answered like they should be. That means field officers aren't going to get out in the community to assist when they should be. It means we might have to close facilities because we don't have the ability to keep them open. So it means a lot. It means a lot for the services that are provided to your residents. So any opportunity out there to connect with individuals who have funding and would consider supporting our agency is really important. But really more importantly than anything else, helping to raise awareness in the community about responsibility, about the laws, and about responsible pet care. Because what I said earlier is we don't want them in our building in the first place. It would be my dream to put myself out of a job, to not have to have a place where animals have to go to. Now, that clearly is a dream, but I think we can work really hard to get closer and closer and closer to that. As you see with our numbers, we've been doing a great job, but we now need folks like you to really hone in on responsible pet ownership and owner responsibility and help people keep their pets in their home and keep them right. So that's really what we are looking at Animal Care and Control, not only the funding aspect, but looking at ways that we can educate so that we can work together and also find partnerships so that we can work together in the communities to do a better job and to help people be responsible with their pets. I'm very passionate about the work that I do, and I can go on forever, but I know animal issues are probably not the only thing that you're talking about today, so I will open that up for any questions anybody has. Thank you.
I just want to ask a couple of questions. We've been hearing of coyote sightings here in the northern Bronx quite a bit in recent months, and I was just curious, do you handle those, securing them, or
Well, I mean, the first thing that I want to share is that, you know, the more we build, the more coyotes come into our communities. So what we try to do is work with people to educate them on how to live in harmony with these animals, because that's really the best method of prevention, is to learn how to live appropriate around them and to learn not how to get bit. If there is and correct me if I'm wrong, but if there is an animal that has bitten somebody, we are responsible for participating with the capture of that particular animal. But it is another organization, isn't it? It's a
cooperative effort between the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene and DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, along with us. It's sort of a tribal.
Okay.
But to say, you know, you saw a coyote or a raccoon or any of these other animals, wild animals that we're living with, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of response. To say that one is being menacing or one appears to be ill or one has bitten somebody, then that is a very different issue. So you'll get a bigger response that way.
And the second question I had was birds. I didn't hear you say anything about birds.
Well, if a bird is injured or if a bird needs assistance or if a bird is brought to us, that is when we deal with birds. And we do on a case-by-case basis get in. I remember those assorted others. I showed you there was a cow and there was a couple of other animals, snake, bird, peacock. Birds are one of those common animals that come in our door. But we even got just last week, we got in, not last week, a couple of weeks ago, we got in, 25 feeder fish that are now living in the office. So you never know what's going to come in the door. My son has decided that a fish is what he's getting for his birthday, and he's waiting right there. So, we can get anything in, but we're not actively out there soliciting birds. And that's one of the partnerships that we work with. We work with wildlife rehabilitators, licensed wildlife rehabilitators. So if they come into the community, into our community, into animal care and control facilities, we will often transport them pretty quickly to the appropriate party that can help them.
I saw some hands up over here. Iveen?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Ingel District Manager, Board 6. I'd like to give a shout out to my two beautiful cats, Milo and Lucky. Yay! Yay. Several questions. We have the Tobi Project that is stationed in front of the Bronx Zoo. Are you affiliated with them? Because I met the doctor last year.
Yes.
Are you affiliated with them? And
it's actually, if I'm correct, it's our facility. It's our mobile unit that he's actually using for the Tobi Project. Dr. Janesco here is actually in charge of that, so I'm going to let her talk about it.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's actually more of a collaborative partnership. It's not our staffing or our funding so much as...
And you could you tell the others what the Tobi Project is?
Sure. So the Tobi Project is one of the initiatives within the city to provide low-cost or no-cost spay-neuter services to populations that are in need of that. And so that may be specific low-income individuals, or that may be populations of animals that are typically underserved, most notably free-roaming cats that you're seeing out in the street, or pit bulls would be the two big efforts. And so there's a number of different organizations within the city working to improve the capacity to provide those services. There were about 50,000 plus surgeries done last year. Not just by the Tobi Project, but by other organizations, the ASPCA, private veterinarians, a number of other individuals. And that sounds like a lot of surgeries, which it is, but we still need more. For a city of 8 million, we'd really like to see that doubled or tripled.
And the Tobi Project was started by a doctor who actually, saw a stray and it would, nurtured it back to health, and he started this project in our neighborhoods. And so free of charge, you could take your pets there. The people that have pets to the Bronx Zoo by 182nd Street, on any given Friday, and free of charge, they'll get neuter and spayed and everything else.
Right.
So
And our
that's one thing.
partnership is, as I said before, is that he actually runs. We have a mobile
he's
facility,
personally.
and the actual mobile facility, we own the facility, and I think he rents it for $1 or something like that as
Right.
part of So it's a nice partnership. He
That's
runs
great.
it. We give him the opportunity.
And I say that because I noticed that, yes, we do have a facility in the Bronx, and I see it's one of the smallest ones. And I was also wondering, what's the capacity there, and how successful is that? How successful are you in getting the strays to be brought into that location here in the Bronx?
The facility is actually just a receiving facility, so we will receive them there, and then we will transport them to the Manhattan shelter, which is where they stay in the evening. So if an animal comes in injured, it's going to be transported immediately. If an animal comes in not injured and we can hold it to the end of the day, then it will stay to the end of the day. It's very, very small, but it's constantly busy. Just
It
like
is
the amount,
good.
people are bringing animals there. The challenge we have is people bringing their own animals there versus a stray animal. It really is meant for the person who finds a stray and has a place to bring.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant to be a, I don't want this anymore, drop-off place. We work really hard with the owners, what we call owner surrenders, which are those folks who don't want their animal anymore, to try to help them keep them. It's another partnership. We have a partnership called Pets for Life, which provides resources and services to owners who want to try to keep their pets, whether it's the low-cost spay neuter, medical care, vaccines, behavior advice, moving help to find a place that you can go with your pet. Whatever it is that you could do, we try to work with you through Pets for Life to help you keep your pet. But unfortunately, and that is one educational area that in 20-some-odd years in this business, I've had a really difficult time figuring out, is how to... The bond is there until it gets broken, and then once it's broken, it's suddenly so easy to really get rid of your pet, and people need to take a little more responsibility there. So that's what we're trying to work on at the receiving center.
Well, I thank you for the work that you're doing
Thank
on
you.
behalf of all the animals here in the Bronx. We have a lot of
And your
strays.
kitties.
Oh my, they're older already. They're wonderful, and I just suggest that everybody get a pet. Because they're right. It's good for your health, by the way, Francisco. It releases the stress. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Kenneth?
Hi, Kenneth Kearns, Bronx Community Board 10. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Not to be shouted by my colleague. Greetings.
Tell us about your pet, too, if you like.
Greetings from Prince and Gingy, the two cats. A tuxedo and an American short hair. Quick question. My board service area consists of about 63.5% private homes, and a lot of people have dogs, and some of them are better with their dogs than others, and in fact most of them are a lot better with their dogs than others. Right now we're dealing with a situation where we have a dog owner who has 3 pit bulls, and she allows the animals to run. Her yard is gated, but they bark all day long. They are really menacing when people just walk past the property. Sure, the owner is recalcitrant, will not do anything. Would your agency be able to at least give them a call and say, hey, you're not doing the right thing by these guys?
Well, I mean, we'd be happy to have one of our officers do just kind of a drive-by, but if the animal is running loose, we can do something about it. If the animal has bitten somebody, we can
Not
do
yet,
something
no.
about it.
Yeah,
but we would be happy to work with you to just kind of see if we could do a drive-by and an educational opportunity.
Okay, great.
Legally, though, unless there really is, and what you said menacing is a word that's important, because if the animals have the propensity to be dangerous, there might be something you could do, but it's not sounding that that's really the case yet.
No. I mean, they're in a gated property, and they're doing what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they're dogs, and dogs bark, and
Right.
They come running towards the front of the fence to basically tell you to get away from their property.
Right.
But
they're in their fence.
But they're in their fence, right?
So,
And,
I mean, again, if you want to contact us, we'd be happy to
okay.
do a
Maybe
drive-by.
like an education
I
thing.
can't promise that that's going to do anything. But,
No,
if
but
the good news is they're in their fence. The bad news is when they get out of the fences, and those are the ones that are really dangerous.
And I've,
but
I've seen the person who's complaining about them all day long.
Right.
I've sent his videos, and they look to be well fed. So it's having being a cohabiter.
Right.
I know well-fed animals.
The other thing with barking is that you have to prove that they're barking, really, and you prove that not only are they barking, but that it's annoying barking. I mean, there's a normal amount of barking,
that's what
and
he's trying to contend.
it's often a neighborhood dispute and there's other issues besides the barking dog that is resulting in it as well. But we'd be happy to see what we can do, but I don't know that's going to be much, but I'll try.
And one last question. We also have a sizable population of feral cats, and they show up at certain households' doorsteps. One of mine for the biweekly handout, and
and you're giving them that handout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, I was waiting for that question. I knew feral question was going to come up, and
and the funny thing is, there's a guy who doesn't really take much responsibility for them other than to put out dry food, and he lives in the basement of one of the houses, and you see a hand come out with a paper plate full of dry food, and then when they're through, I mean, they come marching around looking for, and then there's the food that my cats refuse to eat, so they get it rather than throw it out.
There are feral cat colonies are made up of 3 different types of cats.
Okay.
There are owned cats that are allowed outdoors, usually unsterilized.
Yeah, that's what I think these guys are.
There's abandoned tame cats, so people who just leave them, but they are tame. And then there's your true feral. If you're seeing them, it's probably not a feral. It's probably one of those owned cats that are outside who's living large, because you're not the only one who's feeding them. It's probably everybody in the neighborhood is feeding them.
Their coats are thick and shiny.
Right. Which is why to manage problem communities that have cats, we recommend something called TNR, which is called Trap, Neuter, and Return, or some people call it Trap, Neuter, and Release. And TNR is a program that works to educate the community about their responsibility, help owners spay neuter their own animals, but then capture feral cats, spay neuter them. It's actually ear tipping them, which means cutting off part of their ear so they can be identified. It's actually not inhumane. It's done surgically during the neuter, and then putting them back out in the community, and then having folks like you to get together to help manage the situation. And what studies have shown is that to do population control that way, you will actually ultimately get rid of your population, or at least get it down to a manageable thing. But when you just trap and bring them in and honestly euthanize because you can't find homes for them, you're just in the cycle of cat breeding. So if you're interested in a TNR type project, there is a fantastic coalition called the Feral Cat Initiative. Thank you. I was going to say coalition, but it's initiative. And they are a coalition of many different groups working together and specifically looking at the feral cat issue. You can even have one of these spay-neuter vans come to your community and sit there just for community cats. You can go online and sign up how to get them there. And so there really is a great initiative working on this very issue. So if you have an interest, you can contact us and we can get you in touch with them. And obviously you've dealt with them.
Thank you.
Fernando?
Fernando has dealt with the feral cat folks.
Hi, again, my name is Fernando Torado. I'm the district manager for Board 7. And Board 7 is the proposed location for the full-service animal shelter. And I know that we've gone back and forth with the Department of Health to discuss that. And I want to say that the board is not opposed to a full-service animal shelter in its district. We have many pet lovers. We have many animal lovers in our district. But having a full-service animal shelter on Fordham Road, where there is no parking, where there is no access to public transportation, the board does not feel is a viable option. And we've been working very hard with the Borough President's Office and the Department of Health. And we'd like to invite you to come to our community board meeting so we could discuss options for where we could put either a full-service shelter or a spay and neuter clinic, something that we can actually that it will benefit the community and it'll help your program grow. If you could explain a little bit more as to where is your
Sure.
funding currently for a full-service animal shelter? Is it there? And if it's not there, what else can we do?
Okay, well, I mean, this is one of those areas that I just want to remind that we are a separate organization from the Department of Health. So we have the contract with the Department of Health to provide these services, but the issue with the building of the shelters kind of falls through the city of New York with our support. So the support that we can provide is more, what does an animal shelter look like? What are the things in an animal shelter that you can do to prevent barking? How many animals do we anticipate would show up at a shelter? We can talk to you absolutely, and we'd be thrilled to be part of that in relation to the day-to-day operations of an animal shelter and what is involved with that. As far as the funding sources and as far as the actual location and the site, we don't really have a whole lot connection with that. It really is through the city and the Department of Health. But we are obviously working in partnership with them that if it is developed and when it is developed, we will work and we will ultimately be the ones running the organization. So we'd be happy to participate in it, but I don't know that I really have much to offer in relation to the funding sources and the locale.
So again, I'm going to ask that we set up some time,
Sure.
if not in the month of June, sometime in early September, so that we can get some more information from your organization, so that we can make a better decision as to where exactly the shelter gets placed.
Right.
We'd be thrilled to participate in that.
We also have a representative from the Department of Health here. Did you want to speak on this? Can you use the microphone?
I just wanted to just piggyback on what, thank you, Julie, and what Fernando said, that we're working right now on alternate plans to expand either the existing drop-off station and also consider use of the old Fordham Library, the Bainbridge Center as well. So, right now, plans are still in the works right now, and we hope to at some time present that to the City Council. But we're still open to suggestions and looking at ways to, as I said, to expand services for the existing drop-off station, and the goal of which is to reduce the number of euthanasias and so forth, and also increase pet ownership and so on. So we really share the same goals as AC&C, and we're very happy, very pleased to work with AC&C on coming up with alternate solutions to the problem that Bronx has, being like the top borough where like a third of the drop-offs, like 15,000 of the 45,000 are here in the Bronx, the animal drop-offs.
Continue.
If there is an animal shelter located in the Bronx, will AC&C also start receiving animals from places up north like Yonkers and Westchester, or no?
No.
How can you verify that if somebody comes in with a pet from
Well, I mean,
Westchester?
we do ask for identification upon the drop-in site on where you live. It's really meant to be, the way it works now, it's meant to be a service of the citizen, not so much the animal. So it's more where the animal, where this person lives. So if you live in Yonkers, you kind of have to kind of prove to us that it actually was found in the Bronx and not found in Yonkers. But we don't anticipate that being a huge issue. I mean, right now, we borderline a lot of the different areas. Our Staten Island shelter, for example, is right on the border of New Jersey. And it is not a problem for us in the amount of animals that are coming in from New Jersey. It really isn't. So I think that there's definitely ways to communicate with folks. Then that doesn't mean on occasion an animal's not going to show up, but then we'll be contacting the Yonkers facility and saying, come get your dog, so that we can transfer it.
Mm-hmm. Francisca?
Hi, Community Board 9.
Hi.
Pursuant to the conversation that we're having, do you have any demographics of where these animals are coming from in general?
I don't have them with me, but I can absolutely get them to you because we do have demographics by zip code. Mm-hmm. So we can tell you where most of the animals are coming from. And that's one of the things that our coalition is looking at, particularly the feral cat coalitions. We're looking at where the cats are coming from specifically and trying to see if we can put resources specifically into those zip codes in those communities to address the problem that we're at hand. So I can absolutely, if it's something you're interested in, we can absolutely tell you and provide for you down to the zip code, and really in many ways down to the neighborhood on where certain animals are coming from. And it is clear they are coming from a lot of the same places, but I don't know them off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
Okay, then the other question is your mobile unit and how many neuter spade operations are being performed and, where?
Right. Well, the mobile spay neuter opportunities are actually being managed by other organizations in partnership with us. As Dr. Janesco said, it's about $50,000 a year, but they do come to the Bronx often, so we can absolutely get you a calendar. If there's a place that we can even promote the opportunities in the mobile units, let us know that so that we can get you a calendar and make sure it's out there and that the folks know. But one of the places that they do come to, and I don't know how often do they come to the receiving center that we have in the Bronx. How often does it come? It comes once a week just to our receiving center alone.
Okay, I have a shopping center off of Butler Boulevard that I'd be more than willing to work with the operator. Maybe you could put the mobile unit and we can advertise.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Thank you. Let us know, and I will make sure that we get it in connection with the folks that operate it.
I just want to add that that's one of the things that we're actually working with is increasing the number of these mobile units, just to give you a slight hint as to what these plans consist of that we're working on right now, with the existing drop-off facility that we would like to include. Since they're mobile and they're very you can move them around and so forth, and increase then the capacity of drop-offs and so forth and pick up animals and so on.
John Roberts.
Thank you, John Robert, Board 2. The reason I was a little late coming to the meeting is I was stuck in traffic, but behind a bus, and there was a sign that said "Save a Life." Adopt a sheltered animal.
That's one of our vehicles.
So
yes.
that's wonderful, that kind of outreach. So what I want you to do is take advantage of this audience. We're being televised. Give us the number that people can call if they're interested in adopting a pet. I mean, it'll go out right now.
It's area code 212-788-4000, and that is the main number to the call center, so they will be able to provide information related to any of the facilities.
Very good. Thank you.
To add to that, though, I'd like to say that Animal Care and Control has an amazing animals that are just waiting for you to come take them. So we are open 7 days a week at our 3 full-service facilities. So if there is room, come to Animal Care and Control and really see who we have available. You can also visit our website at nycacc.org, and you can actually see pictures of not only adoptable animals but lost animals that are online. You can actually shop in your pajamas looking for a new pet while you're sitting there looking for pictures of adoptable animals. So we encourage you to look at that, and that's where you can actually find the information on the Pets for Life program as well as on our website. So thank you for that opportunity.
Camilla?
I want to thank you for your presentation, and I want to say hello from Tabby, my cat. That's right, we got to get them together.
As long as they're spayed, we're okay.
I heard what you were saying about your budget, your half a budget you have now. And I was sitting here thinking, because Bronx Community Solutions, who works in the criminal courts, they're looking for people to partner with, and maybe y'all could partner together, because you never know, some of those young people that they're trying to help, just the love of having an animal, someone to care for, is something they're probably missing from home, but they could show their love to, even though it's an animal, but it's somebody that they could express to, and maybe by y'all partnering together, that could help with that gap that you have.
Yeah. Those are the very opportunities that help us find volunteer folks to come in. As I said earlier, volunteers are the backbone of what we do, and we have we have volunteers who come from the Doe Fund right now. We have volunteers that come from school placement type programs. So we do have a lot of opportunity for individuals who might need something to do, but more importantly, they're going to learn not only a task and a skill, but they're also going to learn love. So
that's correct. So maybe that y'all could talk. Also,
we'll talk.
Also, you should also look into the youth, because my daughter is very interested, who's only 16, to be a veterinarian. You have a lot of young people that want to get into that field. So maybe you should also brainstorm on that component, which will also bring you grants, which will also help you in this economically hard time.
youth programming is something that we definitely want to expand and do more of. Right now, it's an issue of resources and even having the personnel to be able to manage a youth program, which is another area that volunteers can help us in, because if we have different levels of volunteering, and some volunteers are kind of at the docent level where they take on responsibility for a project or a program. And if we can get more docent level volunteers, people who want to commit to the nth degree in that, then we can look more at expanding some of our outreach, and particularly our outreach to our youth. So if there's anybody out there who's a teacher, I'm staring right at the camera saying that, who or has experience working with youth that can assist us with expanding that, we'd love to have you.
And my last thing is, I'm guilty, just like you are, feeding the cats. But I'm interested in bringing the TNR to where I live at, which is in the Soundview section, because we do have a lot of stray cats. And maybe that's something that we could talk about, and bringing the spray neuter van there, because we have over 3,000 families in that area, and we have a lot of people that put cats out. And plus we have the park there. So
absolutely, you can contact us through our website at nycacc.org, and I also passed around my personal card and Dr. Janesco's card, so you can actually contact us directly.
And
notice I didn't just say that on camera.
And thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
I think Camilla summed it up for all of us. We really appreciate the work that you do. Thank you so much.
Everybody go home and pet the cat tonight. Well, let her even come in my room.
If you have a black Labrador, I might weaken.
She said she do.
She does.
My brother got that.
Yeah, oh, I love him. I love him.
My brother got one.
Yep. Yeah, she does. She does. Get the light. Get the light. The light, please. Thank you. Our last presenter is Eric Soto from Con Edison, and he's got a presentation for us on what Con Edison is doing to prepare for the summer.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Cawley, Vice President of Bronx Westchester Electric Operations. Thanks for having us. We're going to give an overview of our summer preparation activities. It was warm this morning. It's certainly going to get warmer, and that's when our electric system peaks. It's largely driven by air conditioning load. And really, the summer prep activities that we go through are intended to ensure that for those very hottest days of the year, during the hottest period of the day, the system has enough capacity to meet the demand. I'm here with Eric Soto. He's our public affairs manager. He'll talk about some energy efficiency initiatives. There's a big push on that, and he'll share some of the ways we're getting that message out. Neil Brown's also here. Here's our distribution engineering manager from the Bronx. He focuses on issues, particularly the Bronx, has been doing that for a number of years. And Chris Jones will take you through most of the details. He's our chief distribution engineer in the Bronx Westchester area. He'll talk about some of the components that are unique to the summer of 2010. So I mentioned that we're really readying the system for those hottest days where the system peaks. And on a year-over-year basis, basically what we do is we take a look at where the demand was in the summer of 2009. We look at new business connections and things like that, and we gain an understanding through Chris's modeling and engineering techniques of where the system needs to be reinforced. And he'll go through some of the details of where that reinforcement occurred in the Bronx. On a year-over-year basis, from a system-wide perspective, the peak demand, that demand that at a given point in time, typically around 5 o'clock in the evening across the 5 boroughs in Westchester, the peak demand has not increased year over year, and that's unique for us. Typically, we see a little growth, and that's because everybody's getting a flat-screen TV or another cell phone to charge or a computer. So slowly we've seen the demand increase year over year. From 9 to 10, we basically see a flat system-wide scenario, and we attribute that to two things. First and foremost, it's the economy. So it's the first time since the 70s or so that we haven't crept up slightly. It's flat on a system-wide perspective. And the other factor in keeping it flat are the energy efficiency initiatives. And that's really a win-win. As I said, Eric's going to talk more about it. But to the extent customers can conserve on their energy, they can lower their bills. It's good for the environment. You know, carbon emissions go down if we use less of this energy. And the last thing is, particularly if that energy efficiency is done in targeted areas, it allows us to forgo capital investment. So the consumers use less, they save on their bill. It's good for the environment, and it allows us to forgo investment in the streets. Eventually, we'll probably have to build to reinforce the infrastructure to make sure things are safe and reliable, but it allows us to push those investments out. So that's all. We view that as a three-pronged win, and a tremendous focus moving forward will be on these energy efficiency initiatives. So even as the system load across the 5 boroughs in Westchester is flat, within pockets of the boroughs and Westchester, there is load growth or demand growth. And that's what Chris's folks have to ferret out with their modeling, and then the construction folks go out and build to ensure we're ready for the summer. In addition to the build, Chris will talk about a number of maintenance programs we go through to really buckle up the system and make sure it's in its most resilient state to handle those hottest days. So I'll turn it over to Chris, and then he'll in turn turn it over to Eric to talk about the efficiency. Thanks a lot, and thanks again for having us.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning, everybody. As Tim mentioned, my name is Christopher Jones, and I am the engineering manager for the Bronx and Westchester. The slide we have up on the screen here just highlights some of the key components that make up the electric grid. In the top left, we have a generating station, which would be Indian Point in northern Westchester or Astoria in Queens. Then it is stepped up to our high voltage lines. In the city, we have a tower representing those there, but in the city they are generally they are underground by the time they reach the city. Then it comes around to what we call our area stations on the left. We have 6 of those in the Bronx. And from those area stations, the voltage is then stepped down to our what we call our distribution feeders, which run out through every neighbourhood. In the Bronx, that's at 13,000 volts. Then we have our distribution transformers. The most common in the Bronx are we call them network transformers, and we have about 3,000 of those. And they step the voltage down to the utilization voltage, which comes out of the outlets that the equipment uses. Okay, Eric. Okay, so in preparing for this summer, we detected where our potential overloads are, and for this summer we reinforced, meaning in general we put in a bigger conductor for 10 overhead and underground primary feeders, those 13,000 volt feeders. We installed over 3,000 linear feet of new conduit, which is the equipment that the cable is placed in the ground. We also installed 110 network transformers, so that's 110 out of that total of 3,000. So it's a significant number we replaced or installed new. In addition to that work, we also spent an additional $40 million just in our various, not in making the equipment bigger, but just replacing like and kind for various reasons, such as it's a difficult environment for. On the right, you can see we're replacing a transformer. The transformer we were replacing there, it had been in the ground for a number of decades, and so it may have had some corrosion issues. So when we see that the transformer is in a, getting to a poorer state, we proactively replace in many occasions. Okay, Eric. Yep. Okay, so just quickly going over some of the maintenance programs we have. We have a 5-year inspection program for all of the underground and overhead facilities that we own. We have a stray voltage testing program, which is really an industry-leading program to detect dangerous situations where before a person, gets shocked. So we also have a visual inspection of all our overhead facilities. Included in that visual inspection is we also utilize infrared cameras, so we actually detect problems that you can't see with the naked eye, such as a hot spot in a connector that may lead to a problem when we get to the summer itself, and we repair them before it turns into an actual problem. You may be aware we also have an extensive tree trimming program, which is essential to maintain the reliability of the overhead electrical system, and we test and maintain all our underground transformers, and we also do voltage stress tests on our high voltage distribution feeders. That's where we test them when they're not in service, because we'd rather find the problems that way than when we really need to count on those distribution feeders. One of the other things we do to prepare for the summer, rather than just the things you might see out in the street, is that we prepare our detailed models of the system so that we know in our computer models, where all the electrons are flowing in the system, so we have computer models of the entire distribution system, and they utilize. We have about 4,000 monitoring points out in the system in the Bronx, and they feed back to our control center, and with our model we then can see how the power is flowing under normal conditions, but more importantly, when the system's not in a normal condition, we can understand how the power is flowing, and that allows us to make decisions to basically keep the lights on. We also have many applications back at the control center that utilizes that data, so we make sure they're all ready for the summer. And we also carry out drills where we make up scenarios, and we test our engineering staff and our operational staff how they're going to react to those scenarios. Apart from the regular work which I went over, we do have some significant projects. The top one there is a very significant project, and that is the M29. M29 is the high voltage transmission cable coming down from Westchester, and it's going to feed the Academy substation that is at the northern tip of Manhattan. Now, it's in Manhattan, but the primary purpose for it being built was to improve the reliability of the transmission system for the Bronx. So, that is what it will do when it comes into service in around June next year. As an offshoot to that program, because we're building a large tunnel under the Harlem River for that M29 transmission feeder, we're going to utilize that for some of the Riverdale feeders. Riverdale is actually fed from a substation in Manhattan as well, and the feeders come under the Harlem River. And we're going to reroute some of those feeders, which will essentially shorten the route, and they'll be much more reliable feeders after we do that work, and that'll be ready for the summer for next year's summer 2011. The third project there is a large water treatment plant that's being built in the north of the Bronx, and that's actually being fed from a substation in Westchester, and that should be ready by the end of this year. And the last one there is the 911 call center that is being built. Neil, where's that? Oh, sorry, the Pelham Parkway. Right. Thank you. And that's scheduled to be completed. We're building 5 brand new feeders to reach out to that from our Parkchester substation, and that's scheduled for the end of next year. So, okay, thank you, everybody. I'll hand over to Eric Soto.
Thank you, Chris. All right, well, clearly there's a lot of effort taking place behind the scenes that you don't always see. Some of it takes place back in the command and control centers of the company, and some of it takes place out in the streets. So you'll see a lot of crews doing what looks like routine work, but it's summer prep work that takes place starting at the September 1st mark when the summer unofficially ends through the June period of this year. So in addition to all of that hard engineering work and street work, there's also a push by the company to prepare our customers for the summer, because this is the time of year when people really spend a large portion of their disposable income, unfortunately, in the hottest months, paying their bills because they're running their ACs, and unfortunately that draws a lot of energy. So in preparation for the summer period, the company spends a lot of effort in communicating with the public about the many ways that the customers can save money on their bills. There are also initiatives that we want to push and promote out there. So our big effort, our mission is to help the customers save money and in the process help the environment, which is of course important to folks in certain parts of the city that suffer from poor air quality, for instance. There are a number of energy efficiency initiatives that are underway right now targeting three specific audiences, primarily residential and then commercial or small business. On the residential side, we have two programs. One for residences of 1 to 5 family homes, and then we have another program in the residential market targeting audiences of 5 to 50, so basically apartments, condos, and other multifamily dwellings of that size. On the commercial side, we have small business programs, energy efficiency initiatives and incentives that help provide rebates for the purchase of energy efficient equipment. Businesses can also take advantage of free energy surveys that we will provide to them. The businesses that qualify are businesses that are spending or using, I should say, up to 100 kilowatts of electricity per month. Typically, that's a small business, maybe on the scale of a small McDonald's or a small bodega or something of that type. The company is also investing, even though the economy has slowed down and there's less drawdown on electricity, we do invest. In fact, this year we're spending $1.2 billion in our investment, capital investments, and we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars of federal stimulus money on a smart grid program, which is a way to inject new technology into and marry it with the existing infrastructure so that we have a system that can communicate with itself and can communicate information back to the command and control centers of our control centers in order for us to gain better control and direct the flow of energy in a more efficient manner, and also prepare the system for the eventual introduction, gradual at first, but building pace over the next several years, of more electric appliances, especially electric cars, and also renewable sources of energy like wind power. We have an offshore wind farm project that is in development right now off the Rockaways, and that will deliver power into the Con Edison system. And our smart grid system, which we'll be developing over the next decade or so, will help accommodate that new growth of renewable sources of energy, not only offshore wind power, but also solar power as well. So how do we get this message out to our customers? Well, we engage in a number of different initiatives. We have a summer press release that already went out. We engage with the press and share community packets with them. We have embarked on a summer energy education campaign. There are videos available on our website, and we're also starting to engage more and more in social media activities as well. Our energy efficiency flyers, which have been distributed to all of the community boards and shared with also nonprofit and other community-based organizations throughout the 5 boroughs in Westchester, are out there floating around in one form or another. We have extensive news coverage of all of these energy efficiency initiatives and also our preparations for the summer, captured in all sorts of media sources, extensively throughout broadcast media and print media as well. As I said, we're starting to engage in social media, and we have established a Facebook page just last year. We have 3,000 friends, so we invite you to friend us. You might think this is odd for a company like Con Edison, but it actually is a very good way, an engaging way of interacting with customers. They ask us questions, we monitor what they post, and answer and respond with information, and they like that. It's very immediate. We're also using Twitter as well, and Twitter is actually picking up. The pace of activity there has been growing over the last several months since we started engaging with our customers this way. So we invite you also to engage with us. We are also making sure that we push this message out about our energy efficiency. One of the biggest initiatives right now is a rebate program. You can get a $30 rebate when you buy an Energy Star room air conditioner. We also provide to private homeowners free programmable thermostats if you're interested. The free programmable thermostat is worth $300 and it's installed free and it doesn't cost you a dime. It allows the company on the hottest days to actually control the thermostat, but you can override it. Our website is a treasure site of information. There's a wealth of information on all sorts of energy efficiency activities and tips to help the consumer save money and engage in behaviors that could wind up being good not only for the customer, but good for the environment as well. That's it. So from both a hard sense and a soft sense, there's a ton of information out there available for you to take advantage of. Thank you.
That's very good. Nicole.
Hi, how are you, Eric? Nicole Stent, District Manager, Community Board 8. We've worked very close with you over the past couple of years, thanks to the M29, and it's been good and bad, but overall, you have really kept us informed. I really wanted to thank you and your staff because it's been some difficult moments, and you've kept us informed. You've kept us up to date on a lot of the issues that were occurring as they occurred, particularly this last storm that we had, where you were calling us on the weekends, you were letting us know what was going on, what was happening. One of my concerns, though, that I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about is we have a lot of elderly, and we have a number of physically challenged people in the community, as well as a huge number of trees. We're really well wooded. You have a list that I think you update regularly that people can sign up for so that you're aware that they have some physical challenges. And I was wondering how often you update that. Is it something that you do through a mailer? Is it a call-in? Because we do have a couple of community members, and you know who some of the people I'm talking about, that have called in and wanted to make sure they were on that list, that it was updated, and that you were aware, because it's a safety issue, and they're just greatly concerned.
Well, we don't actively update the list. We really count on the customer to do that and to keep us informed, because as you can imagine, we have a large number of customers that qualify for I imagine you're talking about the LSE program, the life-sustaining equipment. Yes. We also have elderly or senior customers that also sign up to receive special information geared towards their age group and to keep them apprised of special programs that they may want to take advantage of. That information is readily available on our website, by the way. Any and all information related to anything that benefits our customers is readily available on our website. So we really count on our customers, though, to keep us informed as to what their interests are once they register.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I would add that certainly on the website you can get that information. And if you have constituents you sort of avail themselves to it, we do put it out occasionally in mailers, but not everybody reads those. And the advantage of being on the LSE is, the storm in March was a pretty horrific event for our customers and certainly a challenge for the company. We appreciate your patience during that hard time. But what it allows us to do is reach out to customers ahead of time. We knew we had a tough forecast, so we reach out and we say we're going to get weather if in fact you need to chill medication or sort of move to a loved one's for a period. Our customers in those situations can avail themselves of that. We do make proactive calls once they're on the list. So certainly there is some benefits to getting on that list.
And the reason why it's also important because so many elderly are not on the web. And certainly they call our office and we do provide them with that information, but they have, whether it's a fear or they're just not familiar, that is information we'd like to keep updated as well, because there's a lot of people who are not on the web in certain categories.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I mean,
although the web is great because we got information actually directly from Eric that was faster than what was on the web, but it was very useful when we had those outages during the storm because we kind of had an idea what the pockets were when people called us. Yes, they're working on it. It's coming up in the next couple of days. You'll be working on that. So it was very useful. But I just want to include the whole piece.
Right, and that's largely why we're expanding the media approach. Some of the younger folks really get on Twitter and that kind of business. Right. So we're going to keep working at that.
Mm-hmm. Francisco.
First, let me start off by complimenting you on your efforts to reach out to us. Every time there's something that goes wrong in my district, I get a phone call from Eric.
Thank you.
Eric, my concerns are the volume users. Recently, New York City Housing Authority is initiating programs to address the issue of voltage and regulations and energy efficient equipment. That's one area. The other area is Parkchester with 50,000 residents. I'd like to see more of an initiative, more of a program, maybe a rebate or a program that would address the voltage and usage in large area, concentrated area, because they're the ones who draw down the most electricity in our district. So if you can address that.
Actually, I can address it this way. When Parkchester completed its renovations and became our customer for the very first time, we immediately started reaching out to the Parkchester community and conducted information sessions for all the Parkchester residents. Mm-hmm. This was several years ago. Mm-hmm. We continued that initiative for about 3 years. So we shared as much information with them as possible in order to prepare them for the responsibility of becoming a Con Edison customer, mm-hmm. and everything that's associated with that and how to become energy efficient. Mm-hmm. So it may be time to do that again. As a matter of fact, it's something that I've been thinking about. So it's worth considering again, yes.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank Con Edison for the work that you're doing to keep us with electricity in spite of our demands. And I want to thank you for your presentation this morning. And that concludes this meeting. Wish everyone a nice week. It's going to be hot. You're going to be using a lot of air conditioning. Thank you, everyone.